So today I was like, how can I make my brain hurt even more? And that's talking about Cristian Mungiu's films. I hope I'm saying that name right. He is probably one of my more anticipated directors that are working today. I want to say one of my favorite directors. I mean, he probably is. He's probably in my top 10 working today. He only has 5 films that I know of, and I've only seen 4 out of the 5 only. I mean, so I have seen a majority. But he has another film called Occident, which I have actually not seen. I don't know if many people have seen it. And I have actually seen stuff from it, and it seems stylistically, not only from the narrative, but also the cinematography, it's a lot different than the 4 films that I'm about to talk about. But I wanted to talk about this director because he's from Romania, and he reminds me a lot of Neri Bilge Ceylan, which I've actually heard that name be pronounced that, so hopefully I can figure out what it actually is. And Andres Vigenstev. He's very comparable to them because he has this very unique style where everything seems like it's basically handheld. He usually films in 2:3:9:1, and a lot of his films are grounded in reality. Now, the films that I'm going to be talking about today are, and he actually has 3 of his films in the Criterion collection, but the films I'm going to be talking about are Beyond the Hills, 4 Months, 3 Weeks, 2 Days, Graduation, and this one doesn't have a Criterion yet, although I would not be surprised if it did, but this is the Region B of RMN. And what I'll do is I'll just go through and sort of talk about each film. I'm going to go ahead and just get my little ranking out of the way for his films, because this isn't necessarily a ranking video. It's just sort of me talking about his films, because I am a big fan of his filmography. But the way that I would rank them, and they're all good, so even though I have one at the bottom, it doesn't mean that, I don't like it. It just means that it's at the bottom. I gotta have a least favorite. But I would probably go with number 4, Beyond the Hills, number 3, Graduation, number 2, RMN, and number 1, 4 Months, 3 Weeks, and 2 Days. But let's not waste any time. Let's talk about these. Okay, let's go. On the Hills, Alina returns to Romania from Germany, hoping to bring Vocita, the only person in the world she loves and was loved by, back with her. But Vocita has found God, and God is the hardest lover of all to best. Now, this is actually not a good description of this film, because this film actually goes a lot deeper, because I'm not going to spoil any of these films whatsoever, but I am going to have to be a little bit non-spoilery with this one. I'm going to have to hold back a lot of information on this film, because there are elements of this film that this description is very, it's a lot different than what this film actually is. But this film is it's set in modern day, but it's very kind of dark and decrepit. Like, it's got sort of this folk look to it in a way, where it almost kind of reminds you of a period piece, or kind of like a fairy tale. It's definitely, I think, the darkest of Cristian's films. But yeah, it's great. I like it. I enjoy it. But there's sort of this, there's this situation that happens around, I want to say it's about halfway. It could be a little bit before or after, but it puts you in a very interesting predicament as an audience member, where you're seeing something happen to one of these characters, and you know it's wrong, and the story sort of just rolls with that for the rest of the film, to the point to where it just really does sort of it makes you second guess your thoughts on a lot of these characters. Definitely one that I would need a rewatch for sure. Definitely one that I would need a rewatch for. Probably the deepest film. Well, I don't know if it would be the deepest film with metaphorical undertones. I would probably have to give that to another one of these films. But still, nonetheless, I think this is actually the perfect starting point for Cristian's filmography, because I do think that this is my least favorite one of his films, but again, it's still really good. Like, it's still a fucking good film. I like it. But yeah, I do think that this is a pretty good starting point. And I think that if you can watch this, you can definitely watch the rest of his films, because I do believe that this is the longest of his filmography. So yeah, there's that. At number 3, we have Graduation. A father will do anything to save his daughter's future. After his daughter is assaulted and left with an injury that may jeopardize her opportunity to study in the UK, a Romanian doctor decides to do whatever it takes to secure her future. That is actually an amazing description of what this film actually is. And the thing about this film is it has, and I really love it. I don't know why, I just do. But I love it whenever a film or a director or a storyteller gives us a character that we're not necessarily supposed to sympathize with because, you know, we kind of have our issues with that character. But at the same time, it's very interesting and it's very unique because I guess you could even say it's kind of taboo because depending on how you feel about the character, you find yourself sort of rooting for them. And the lead character in this, the father, you know, the daughter's father, the doctor, he is not necessarily the greatest person. And you sort of figure that out as you progress through the film. But it's such a casual situation where you feel like the stakes are not that high, but the stakes are very high. To the point where you start to wonder why characters start doing some of the things that they do. And I don't know, this was actually my introduction to Cristian's filmography. And I liked it enough to where I checked out the rest of his films. So, I mean, I guess it was a good starting point, sure. But yeah, I had a wonderful time with it. And it's one of those films where, again, the stakes are not that high. Like the stakes are high. Don't get me wrong. What happened to his daughter is horrible, and you know, but it just basically they're not worried about what happened to her. They're worried about the opportunity of her studying in the UK and her taking her exams. That's the stakes. Now, I'm not saying that there's not high stakes in this because there is. I probably worded that wrong. I don't think I did because it's just the way that it presents it in a very nonchalant way where if this would have been an American director, right? Okay, this is actually a way better description of what I'm trying to say. What happened to the daughter and what the father's trying to do and what the father's trying to achieve, which is her studying in another country and passing her exams, that's not exactly at all what another director would probably do in the States or somewhere else where more action-packed cinema is more versatile and, you know, and there's a lot more stuff that you can do with the storytelling. Instead, what would have happened was she would have been assaulted and then her father would have went and killed every single one of them. But that's not what this film is about. This film is literally about a girl taking her exams after that horrific moment. It's so thought-provoking. It is very, very thought-provoking. Cristian, you son of a... I get to talking about his films and I just realized how good his filmography is. Coming in at number 2 is RMN. RMN, a few days before Christmas, having quit his job in Germany, Matthias returns to his Transylvania village. He wishes to involve himself more in the education of his son, Rudy. There we go, education. Left for too long in the care of his mother, Anna, and to rid him of the unresolved fears that have gripped him. He's also eager to see his ex-lover, Cecilia, and preoccupied about his old father, Otto. When a few new workers are hired at a small factory that Cecilia manages, the peace of the community is disturbed. Underlying fears grip the adults, and frustrations, conflicts, and passions erupt through the thin silver of apparent understanding and calm. Sliver, not silver, sliver. The cinematography for this is amazing. You know, he does this thing where, again, a lot of Steadicam stuff, things shot in wide, no soundtrack whatsoever, very much just great sound design, ambiance, but this is actually one of those films where I really enjoy the location. You know, like there's some films where the location is sort of more iconic than some of the characters. And I don't want to necessarily say that the location is more iconic than some of the characters in this, because it's definitely not. But there's just this very interesting interaction between, you know, like a father and a son and these relationship quarrels that just sort of, it's kind of like you're forced to watch these characters in this predicament, which is something that I've noticed a lot of Cristian's films handle. You're just kind of forced to watch these characters in these very unfortunate situations. But there's one thing about this film, and I don't really have too much to add to it other than I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the beginning of the film, but this film has one of the greatest, I'm not just saying this, it has one of the greatest endings that I've ever seen, because I was talking about metaphorical undertones. Well, this film has a lot of them, and the last minute of this film is insane. It's wild. It is just so bizarre. When I watched it, I actually went back and watched it again, and I had to sit there and I was like, what are they doing? What does this mean? And it is kind of downright scary. I hope that's enough to get you guys excited to watch this one, because the last minute alone is kind of freaky, and I was not expecting it. It took me off guard, and it's a very intense creative decision, because it is one of those things where, okay, well, you know, this could possibly ruin my whole film and everything that it stood for, but it doesn't. I think it just strengthens it, and I loved it a lot. And coming in at number 1, this is no surprise. I think this is just an instant classic. This film is just completely perfect. If you look at, you know, a lot of his Letterboxd views, a lot of his films usually only have like 10,000, 11,000 logs. This one has 61,000, and it's number 229 in the Letterboxd top 250. And it's 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. At what moment do we begin to live? 2 college roommates have 24 hours to make the ultimate choice as they finalize arrangements for a black market abortion. Yeah. And what this film does is it is just completely blunt about every fucking thing that it tries to portray. And I loved it. It held nobody's hand. It forced you to watch it. And kind of like Gaspar Noé's Irreversible, this is how you handle subject matter like this, because there's no easy fucking way. You just can't do it. You just got to tell it how it is. You got to make the characters believable. You got to make the situation uncomfortable. And when I was watching the 2 lead characters in this, the 2 women in this, I felt so bad for them. I felt for them a lot, especially the guy that does the abortion, which I'm not going to spoil anything, but let's just say he's a dick. And it's just so intense, to the point to where I think it's actually more intense than a lot of thriller films, you know, a lot of films that have more action-oriented set pieces. Like, this film is just very, it's just so unnerving, and it's so intense at times, especially after something happens and we follow the lead character in this. I'm not even trying to pronounce a lot of these names. I'm sorry. But again, it's just the situations that Cristian puts you in. I just, you know, it's just like, are you all right, dude? Are you okay? And this is just another one of those films that speaks for themselves. It won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. This film is terrific. Like, seriously, this film is great. If you guys have not had a chance to see this, this is probably the most essential of his films. I do think RMN has the best ending out of any film in his filmography, but this film overall is just a lot better, and it's a lot tighter too. It has a shorter runtime than most of his other films, and it just, everything just goes right. And it just, there's a lot, like, I'm looking at some of the Letterboxd reviews right now, and it does seem like some of it's a little controversial. I would not have expected anything less, really, whatsoever. I think that very safe to expect something like this from this story. But yeah, I had a, I don't want to necessarily say I had a great time with this, but I did, you know, understand, and I just thought that this was, you know, there's something that he does. He sort of has this style where every film that he makes, there is a basically a pretty long dialogue sequence where you're following, like, you're watching it's like he almost has like a 10-minute one shot in every single one of his films, and I just love it. And yeah, I need to quit saying and. But anyway, guys, that is the video for you. I'm so glad that I got to talk about this director. He is probably one of my favorites working today, no doubt about it. I'll watch anything that he makes. I can't wait to see what he makes. And like I said, Cristian, I compare him a lot to Neri and Andres Veganstev. So yeah, if you like their films, I feel like, you know, he's one to check out, one to watch out for. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a thumbs up and maybe subscribe. If you guys want to check out my short films or my filmography, please do so. It would mean the world to me. If you're a filmmaker and you want to collaborate or anything or want to talk, reach out. Always looking to meet new people. And you can check out my link tree down in the description below. But anyway, guys, take it easy, and I'll see you guys next time.